Hello, and welcome back to another episode of It's Called Football on the Vendetta Sports Media YouTube channel. Jerry Walker, Jackson Fyda, per usual, ready to talk about the Premier League weekend that just happened, weekend coming up. We may touch on the fall apart of Man City in the Champions League briefly if we have time. We have a very full show for you today. But before we do that, Jackson, how are you doing this Thursday afternoon?
I'm good. I'm good. Nice and warm out here, so
Yeah, it looks it
can't
must
complain
be
about that.
must be nice. It's about 18 degrees. Been snowing all week in
I know.
Nashville.
I
So
know. It's kind of nice and mid to end of February. I could just be out here right now, just so warm, so comfortable.
oh, yeah, no, it looks like a nice old day out there.
Mm.
And the reflection in the sunshine and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. A lot of Premier League stuff. We'll kind of get right into it. Weird week because we had matches over the weekend. We had the one-off Liverpool and Aston Villa match during the midweek, and now some stuff coming up this weekend. But we'll start with Man City and Newcastle, the one we had listed as our game of the week, match of the week last week. And let's just say this didn't exactly go Newcastle's way.
To say the least.
I think we both thought, or I mean, did you take City to win this, or did you take Newcastle in the end? I think we both took City.
Yeah, we took City.
But I didn't expect it to be 4-0, and I sure as hell didn't expect Omar Marmoush to get a hat trick in what was his fourth game for Chelsea for
Yeah,
Man
still
City.
relatively new. Yeah, he hadn't scored yet.
Yeah, comes out, puts on a hat trick in the first half, and by that point it's already over.
Mm.
Caddy got the fourth goal late on in the match. He's a 22-year-old who dons the number 87, which you don't see very much, and that just kind of shows that they've been playing younger bench players at the moment. But what did you think of this performance by Man City, considering how lackluster they've looked otherwise recently?
Well, it's what they needed, right? And they needed Marmoush to kind of step up. They signed him for a reason, and obviously you need that bit of grace period to get accustomed to the Premier League and a new side in general. And they needed this, right? De Bruyne is not the same player that he once was. He's older. He can't go like he used to be able to. So Marmoush was kind of like a natural progression from him, and he did phenomenally this game. I mean, not only did he get a hat trick, he did it all in the first half. He did it all in the first 35 minutes. Yeah, he was just electric, to say the least. And that's exactly what you needed against a big-time Newcastle side that's playing well. You needed, or that's been playing, throughout the season. They're right up there.
Mm-hmm.
You needed a big performance. You needed someone to step up. That's exactly what Marmoush did, and that's why they signed him. We didn't expect it to be like this. I mean, 3 goals in the first half, a 3-goal lead. I mean, that's basically everything that could have gone well for them after what happened against Real Madrid right before went their way. So, I mean, huge performance from them.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, this looked like the Man City, especially in this first half, the Man City that we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years. Even the first goal, a hell of a long ball from Ederson, who got credited with the assist in the end. That's the Ederson we're used to seeing, not the one we saw against Real Madrid last week, where he's having the ball bounce off him. He's not playing it out right. He's playing it to the wrong color team and all that. He came out and showed a lot of the critics wrong about him in this match, and just a statement win for Man City. Also puts them in their own control for that last Champions League spot moving into next season, now that they are already out of it and can't win the Champions League this year to guarantee qualification. They have to do it through the league, and I think they have a very good chance of doing that. I just don't trust some of the other teams around them, and I think this was a big one to kind of be like, okay, now let's start moving forward. You opened up a gap over Newcastle, who you were tied with on points coming in. I think the biggest thing is they did this without Haaland really doing much.
Yeah.
He had assist, because this has been our question all season. Who can do it if he's not? And Mariusz stepped up this time.
Yeah, he did. And that's what they need again. You lose Julian Alvarez. You had De Bruyne's aging. I think he probably moves on at the end of this year, to be completely honest. You needed someone else. And Marmoush can fill that role, and he did certainly in this game. And I mean, even in the Champions League game, I don't know if you saw that free kick, but he's got some class to him for sure. That's why they signed him. He's a damn good player.
Does indeed. And with his hat trick, he's moved up to 5th in the team in goals already. And he's played about 3 games. So that just shows it, because Phil Foden has 7 and he's second on the list. Erling Haaland is 12 more with 19. And that's been their issue all season. If he's not scoring, no one is.
Yep.
It's bad. You have a center back who's got your 3rd most goals. Kovacic, who's a defensive midfielder, has the 4th most goals. This is one that the attack has just been flawed all season. And this is one to help. And as far as the Newcastle side of things goes, I'm disappointed. I thought they'd at least put in a little bit of a fight, but I'm not writing them off for anything in the moment. I do think they're gonna struggle to get to European football, at least Champions League football next season. They have a very, very big week ahead of them as well, with the FA Cup in a few weeks. They have Nottingham Forest and then Liverpool midweek and then next weekend. So it's going to be a tough stretch of games for them over this next week, though. So we shall see how they do.
Yeah, they definitely have the quality, though. I think they'll get European football for sure. Champions League, maybe not, but they are only 3 points back, and there's still a lot of footy to be played. City's got plenty of opportunities to drop points. Newcastle's got plenty to gain points. Got a long way to go still, so we'll see.
Yeah, and with the failure of the Italian teams in the Champions League, I think it's all not quite a lock, but it's looking much more likely that the Premier League gets 5 teams into the Champions League next season. So
yeah,
that just opens
that coefficient spot, man.
Oh yeah, it's great, especially for a team like Newcastle. Maybe they do just need to finish 5th.
Yeah, exactly.
Because as it stands, if it's the top 5, we have Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City. All 3 of them were predicted, I think, by everybody to go to the Champions League, finish top half, or top part of the table. Then it'd also be Forest, who sits in 3rd, and Bournemouth in 5th.
Yeah.
Give me that. Give me that for the Champions League.
Wouldn't that be awesome? I think Forest is looking, obviously with where they're at 3rd, and they've got a gap on the other teams. That's great. If we could get Bournemouth in there too, my gosh.
Yeah. That's the next match we're going to just kind of touch on here is Fulham and Nottingham Forest. Didn't go Forest's way this time. They ultimately lost a pretty exciting match. They lost 2-1 at Craven Cottage. Emil Smith-Rowe opened up the scoring for Fulham. Chris Wood got the equalizer 22 minutes later, and then it was, I want to say what? Who's about Calvin Bassey, who got the winner in the 62nd minute, and it was back and forth even after that. Both teams had chances to score, and it was one of those ones that Forest just could not break down the Fulham defense. And ultimately, Cottagers get the 2-1 win. Mm-hmm. What do you think on that?
It's tough to play at Fulham.
Yeah.
I've been talking about that this season. This Fulham team's good, first of all. We've seen them compete with everybody. They can compete with literally any team they want to. So it's kind of just a give and day kind of situation with them. But you add that to the fact that they're playing at Craven Cottage, it's just a difficult place to play. So I wasn't really that surprised with this, to be completely honest. Obviously, Nottingham Forest has been overperforming this entire season. At a certain point, even though they're playing phenomenally, they're going to slip up and they're not going to have the best of games. And a team like Fulham's a team that can easily take advantage of that. And they did, right? They did. They took the 1-0 lead early on. Chris Wood comes back. But then you get the winner later on. And Fulham, they kind of kicked ass in terms of the amount of shots they had and shots on target when you compare it to Forest. It was well-deserved for sure. And I'm not really that surprised. Fulham's good at Craven Cottage. I don't think this is anything to be concerned about if you're Forest. It's a good team. You didn't have the best of days. You move on. Get ready for the next one.
And going off what you said about the shots, you look at it statistically wise, it was 24 shots with 10 on target for Fulham to 8 shots with 2 on target for Nottingham Forest. So very, very, very big discrepancy. Fulham also had more possession. And this was the only team I think, I could be wrong, the only team that Forest lost to both times this year. They lost to Fulham 1-0 early on in the season and then lost again 2-1 this week. But otherwise, they've only lost about 6 other matches all season. So One of those ones, yeah, they've only lost 4 other matches outside of those. So I highly doubt that they lost to the same team twice, considering I think they lost to Arsenal once, Man City once, Newcastle once.
Mm-hmm.
So fair play to Fulham. Maybe they're one of those teams that's just a full-on bogey team. And as you said, playing at Craven Cottage, it's such a small, I don't know if small attendance-wise is the right word, but it's a compact
Yeah,
field.
it's intimate. It's an intimate arena or a stadium. Excuse me.
Right on top of you. And if they get going, they can be just as loud and annoying and a pain to play at. Hard to hear yourself thinking, hard to hear your teammates, your coaches yelling at you. It's just one of those places that's weirdly difficult. And when Fulham's running away and playing well, that crowd gets behind them.
Oh yeah,
Great way. Moving on, unless you have anything else to talk about this Forest one, because Forest now does sit third place. They have 47 points. I don't see them really chasing down Arsenal or Liverpool.
No.
I don't see them necessarily falling below. I think Man City could pass them, but I don't think like a Bournemouth or a Chelsea or Newcastle will find the momentum to jump them.
Mm.
But that's where it comes into play this upcoming weekend. We'll dive into their matches upcoming here in a second. But their next 3 Premier League games, you play 3 of the top 7 teams.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah, there's a lot coming up. But they've shown that they can handle it so far this season. I don't think they'll fall out of the top 4, to be completely honest. I agree with you. I think City passes them ultimately. But they've played so well. Defensively, they've looked very solid. And they find ways to score. I mean, they're brilliant with their counterattacking.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't see any way that they don't get it with how they've been playing. Still a lot of time to be, again, talk about it every week. There's still a lot of time left. I'm also going to shout out Fulham's not that far away either.
No, they're really
5 points back from City right now.
That's
so, what are they, in 8th?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, they're in 8th. They're right there as well in terms of, even if you don't get Champions League, getting a European spot. It's one of the more entertaining Premier League seasons we've seen in terms of parity, right? Obviously, Liverpool's been out ahead of the pack for a while. They're starting to slip up a little bit, and we're seeing teams kind of creeping up. But then this European race is just phenomenal with Forest, Bournemouth, Fulham, Villa, Newcastle, all these teams right there with some of the traditional big 6 big boys, you know? It's just been so fun to watch.
Because let's say hypothetically it's what? You get 6, maybe 7 teams from the Premier League. Maybe 7. Let's say with 6, that puts Chelsea, who has 43 points. That's the benchmark. Aston Villa in 9th with 39. The low end of teams who are still in that range, Brighton has 37 points. We just saw what they did to Chelsea at the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
They beat them 3-0. We're going to kind of shift into that as well talking this over. But that's not a crazy amount. That's 6 points. Yeah. 6 points you got to make up, and you can go from 9th place to a European spot. Plus, a team like Aston Villa and Brighton, or I guess Aston Villa more than Brighton, who's in 10th, so checking on that. You can go from 10th to 6th with a span of 2 wins. But teams still are playing in Champions League, still playing in the FA Cup, still have Europa League, all this stuff. And then you look at the bottom side of the table where Tottenham is finally kind of moving up a bit. Man U is still in the mud. West Ham won the Europa League, or won the Conference League not that long ago. They've fallen apart completely. It's one of those really interesting and exciting seasons, just as far as everything goes. Anyone can beat anyone this year, it seems, on any given day.
Yeah, that's what's making it fun. You know, it's a great season to be a fan, for sure.
And now moving on to that Brighton one, 3-0, just ran through Chelsea. Second time in the span of a week that they beat Chelsea. First it was 2-1 in the FA Cup, then 3-0. Do you think it's just one of those things that Chelsea wasn't good enough? Or is it just Brighton has the mentality, had the form, and had the players to ultimately get it done?
I think it's got to be a combination of both, to be honest. This one caught me off guard completely. I can see it in the FA Cup, you know. FA Cup's its own kind of weird thing, you know. Like, obviously good teams still do well, but I feel like it's like its own kind of season within the season, you know. its own different thing. I thought shifting back to the Premier League, we'd see Chelsea take care of business easily. You know, this one completely caught me off guard. And I think Brighton is just a matchup nightmare for Chelsea, and that Chelsea just had a very bad week. They just weren't at the races, and they weren't good enough. I think it's a combination of the two. Because you look at the stats, I mean, they didn't have a single shot on target.
No.
That's on them, because this Brighton team has leaked goals in other games.
Mm-hmm.
And against a Chelsea team that at one point looked like they couldn't be kept from scoring 3 a game, that's just not good enough, especially with the attacking threat that they have. You dominate possession, it's like 70-30, but you can't actually get a shot on target. That's on them. They did not play well enough. But credit to Brighton, right? They're a matchup nightmare. They just played them. They saw what worked well, and they just went out there and kicked their ass again.
And a big thing for Brighton is I think the biggest thing from the first game to the second was they changed their formation. Changed it much more to defensive. They went from a 4-2-3-1 in the FA Cup game to playing more of like a 5-4-1. So they're pretty much sitting 9 guys back in front of the goalkeeper, which makes sense that Chelsea had so much possession. I think, what'd you say, it was 70-30 in favor of Chelsea. But you can pass the ball around all you want. We've seen this with plenty of teams. You can just kick the ball around. If you're not moving forward and not creating shots, you're not going to score and you're not going to win the game. And that's fair play to that back line of Brighton. Fair play to Bart Verbruggen for, I guess, he showed up. Had he not been there, they still wouldn't have lost the game. But it's one of those things where they just played a tactic and style that we're so used to Chelsea having done with Jose Mourinho in the past. You just sit back, let them come to you, and then get out on the counter. And they did that really well with Matoma and Minta, and Danny Welbeck somehow still helping out as much as he can do at his age. But this is one of those ones that play finesse. And the first goal was an assist from Bart Verbruggen, the goalkeeper. And then the others were also counterattacks. So they took advantage of what Chelsea's was doing, and I think just threw it right down the field.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you got to do. I like the point you made about switching the tactics up, recognizing the difference and the reaction that Chelsea was going to try to have. By making that shift, like you said, you're able to keep them from actually creating super dangerous chances. They recognize that they're probably going to lose the possession battle. I don't know if they thought it would be like this lopsided, because those kinds of games suck when you only have 30% of the possession. That's not fun, but they executed it perfectly.
Yeah.
It was a great bit of managing.
Those are FIFA numbers at their finest.
Hey, say that again?
Those are FIFA numbers at their finest. Getting dominated possession, just somehow winning on counterattacks.
Yeah. But they've got the players to counterattack, and they recognize that. Matoma, always going to be dangerous with his dribbling, his pace, his offensive prowess. And Minta kind of playing in that like right wing back role where he can attack and defend at the same time, getting 2 goals. I mean, they've got the guys to go and be dangerous on the counterattack. Tyreek Lamptey as well. Great pace going forward, can defend at the same time. So they had it set up pretty well. And it worked to perfection for this game. So fair play for Fabian Hurtzweller. He got it right.
It does. And I will say, just looking at the fixtures the remainder of the season, it wouldn't surprise me if we see Brighton kind of try and make a run at things and run at things. They have to play Man City. They have to play Liverpool.
Yeah.
Outside of that, though, it's really manageable. Like, you play Bournemouth, who you could beat Bournemouth. You could lose to Bournemouth. It's one of those ones. For both of those games. You still have to play at Tottenham, maybe difficult. Yeah. But otherwise, majority of these teams are Brighton. You have to play Crystal Palace, Leicester, West Ham, Wolves, Southampton. All these teams are in the bottom half. So I think we're going to have a really exciting race from 10 upwards this end of the season.
Oh, yeah. As we said earlier, it's been so much fun already to watch. But especially once we get underneath 10 games left, coming up here in just a few weeks, I think we'll be at that point.
Yeah,
it's going to get really interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be feisty because we play. What do we play? 38 games.
Yeah,
38. We're at 25 for all teams except for 2. except for Aston Villa and Liverpool. So we got plenty of action left, and it's going to be very fun and feisty.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is, we'll move on just briefly to this. We're going to touch on two other games this past week. Starting briefly with Tottenham and Man U. I can't help but laugh at this point.
Yeah, it was such a dull.
This game sucked. This
It
was
was-
kind of what we expected. We'll say there were 13 total shots on target between the two teams. They were taking efforts. Why? It was only James Maddison who could get his dart through.
Yeah. I mean, there actually were a decent amount of shots.
Yeah.
Like I will say that. But just watching it, the game just felt dull.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I would describe it. Like, it's just such a just dismal affair between the two of them. And Tottenham's finally starting to get things going. That's back-to-back wins. That's good for them. You know, they moved up into 12th place. Ange still has his job. So, I mean, that's a
Somehow.
I thought he was going to get let go at a certain point, but they have kind of turned the page a little bit. They are winning, and I think the Tottenham leadership acknowledged the injury issue, you know, which, I mean, fair but not fair. I whatever. I still thought he was going to get the sack, but I mean, just this game in general, I guess at the end of the day, the only thing to say is Tottenham sucks a little less than Man U.
I mean, yeah, and I will also point out, if we're talking injury stuff, Tottenham's had plenty of guys out all season. Some have started to come back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And you for this match, but I don't know if it was just little knocks because half these guys played last week in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
They had 10 guys listed as out. Their entire bench outside of Victor Lindelof was youth players. The only substitution they made was – this might be one of the biggest age gaps we've seen in a substitution in a long time. Chido Obi, 17 years old, came on for Casemiro, who I want to say is what, 32?
Yeah,
That's a
he's in his 30s.
15-year gap. There's almost as big an age gap between Casemiro and the kid that came on for him than the kid being born.
Yeah.
Put it that way, there was nothing really Man U could do off the bench.
That was their only sub. You know that?
Yep.
Their only substitution.
Yeah, this is one of those weird ones where there's like pretty much all under 21 players.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you want to say on this one? I kind of just
if you're a Man U fan, you just want to get to the end of the year. You know, you just want to get to the end of it. It's been that bad. I mean, Tottenham fans.
It's not much better. It's one whole point.
It's not. But I feel like they've been through it a little bit more, and at least, Man U fans remember the glory days, right? Tottenham didn't really has never had those glory days, so I feel like it's a little bit more palatable for them. Man U fans right now, this is miserable. Like, and then you see Marcus Rashford go and immediately start playing well. Anthony go and start playing well. It's just so frustrating.
And we've talked about it time and time again. I don't know if it's the manager, if it's the players, if it's just the culture. There's a lot going wrong there. It's almost like, as far as the fan-wise goes, it's not quite as bad as, and I don't know your opinion on Arsenal TV when they had that group, but it seemed like they would do nothing but complain about the team and put pressure on the players even when they did win. It was never good enough. And it was like that group of like 4 guys with ATV. That's how I feel about the Man U fans. They're just putting so much pressure on the players, the manager, and they're just not doing anything.
Yeah, it's just a shit show, to put it lightly. It's a shit show, and everybody who's involved in the shit show just wants it to end. You want to get to the end of the season, try to sign some players and change things around. I am pretty disappointed in Ruben Amorim so far. I thought get at least somewhat of a boost. I don't think it's entirely on him. He kind of just walked into this situation. No. But at a certain point, he's gotta get some results too, you know? So
yeah, I don't exactly think Sporting is running away as much anymore as they were. They're still they're winning the league by 2 points, but were up in the league by way more than that when he left.
Yeah.
So I think there's something with him being a manager. I think he'll be okay. It's just the culture and the players are just not it. We need a full overhaul this summer, and hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully they keep the same thing and see what happens. But
I'd love that. Keep the experiment going, right? Let's see if it works.
I mean, it's almost like the Philadelphia 76ers. You got to trust the process, even if the process is never ending.
There you go. Next year. Next year.
Yeah, it's always going to be next year. Like the Cowboys, we're always going to be good next year.
Next season, yeah.
With that being said, we're moving on to our last game from this week. Midweek one, don't have to go into entire depth on the game itself, but I do want to talk a bit about the reaction to what's going on around them. Liverpool, Aston Villa. Mo Salah puts him up 1-0, 29 minutes in. Rui Tillemans gets the equalizer, and Ollie Watkins gets one right before the death of the first half. Trent Alexander-Arnold gets one early-ish on in the second half, finishes 2-2. Yet another week of Liverpool dropping points in the Premier League. The title race that seemed like it was a little bit over is now getting much, much closer.
Yeah.
This will let you start. What did you just think of this match before we dive into the table outlook and how you feeling about Liverpool the rest of the season?
First of all, just talking about this match, what a game that was. Like, that was an exciting, fun game to watch. I was watching at the same time as the Champions League games, and I found myself watching this more than the actual Champions League games. Because it was just, there's a lot going on. Excitement constantly happening. Villa played well. You know, they played well. Liverpool had more chances. They had a little bit more possession. You expected that. But Villa looked so dangerous in attack, right? And that's and it showed. Tielemans gets the goal, and then the Watkins goal right before half.
That was huge.
Great ball, great header. Right before halftime as well is a great time to score because that just immediately changes the whole dynamic of the game. It changes how Arne Slot was going to have to react. All that. It was a great first half from Villa. Obviously, Trent scored later on. Tyrone Mings, I don't know what he was doing that second half. I'm not going to blame him for the deflected goal that happens. Did some other bonehead stuff later on, though, that almost cost him. But, yeah, I mean, unfortunate that happened. Liverpool definitely deserves something out of this. Mm-hmm. But at the end, Villa looked the more likely team to win it.
Yeah.
They had very dangerous chances at the end, and Daniel Mullen, with the last kick of the game, almost put it bottom corner on him. Like, this close. So
I mean, then you have the guys like on the other end, Darwin Nunez, who,
oh my gosh,
as I read about it, that could have been that might be the miss of the season for everybody.
How do you miss that bad?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you missed. You could have cut him. You could have taken a touch. You could have just simply passed it in.
It takes skill to miss that,
dude. That miss made no sense. I assumed he had to have been like offside, and he just like knew it and just blasted it over. And then you watch it back, you're like, nope, that's just Nunez being Nunez. It was
that would have been the winner at the time because he came on in the 66th minute, had his chance to take advantage, and just completely scuffed it.
Yeah, I saw an interesting point someone made where it's like Arne Slot has like improved every player there. It feels like, except for Nunez. He shows moments where he's unbelievable. He's got the physical attributes for sure. But it's then moments like this where it's not just that you miss, but you miss that badly.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling to me. That would have been the winner. I don't think Villa would have scored after that. As the game showed. Because they got close. They got chances later on. They didn't bury it. I don't think they would have scored. Liverpool gets all 3 points. But now instead, if you're Arsenal, you win your game in hand. You're only 5 back.
Yeah, you can smell blood in the water. And as we were discussing before the show and kind of leading the point you just brought up, Arsenal have 53 points through 25 matches, Liverpool 61 through 26. If Arsenal does win their match in hand, that gives them a 5-point difference. They still have to play Liverpool later on in the season. So let's say, for hypothetical speaking, they beat Liverpool. That's a 2-point gap. All you need to do, then it's pretty much in Arsenal's hands. You just need to win out. Hope Liverpool slips up once, and we'll get into that even more so. I guess
Yeah.
now, unless you have any other thoughts on the Aston Villa Liverpool match, I'm gonna move us on to our match of the week this upcoming weekend,
Okay, we can move on. Yeah, let's hop
which is
into it.
which is Man City and Liverpool. If Man City can come out and win this weekend, Arsenal wins this and wins their game in hand, somehow get and does something against Liverpool, it's in Arsenal's hands. This title race that we've talked many times about before being over might not be nearly as over as we thought it was. And it all starts this weekend with Man City and Liverpool, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What are you expecting from this match? Because, I mean, we just talked about Liverpool been a little lackluster as of late. Maybe they're feeling the pressure. Man City just went out in the Champions League today or yesterday. Looked terrible. Good, but did go and beat Newcastle 4-0 at the weekend. This is one that I think is going to be a contender for match of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm feeling goals.
Yeah.
I'm feeling goals. I think City's going to score, but they can't defend, right? So there's going to be goals in this game. I'm feeling a 3-2 City win.
Oh,
I'm feeling a City victory in this. I could also see a draw, but I don't think City loses, to be completely honest with you.
I don't either.
The disappointment with Real Madrid, but it's Real Madrid. They've
We,
got
we, we all know Real Madrid's going to win the Champions League again.
it happens every year. They're at least in the semis. So, like, I wouldn't be too disheartened. It sucks, but I think they kind of went in knowing this is going to be tough. And at halftime, I think they already knew it was over. But I think they're going to bounce back in this one. They need the points, first of all.
Yep.
They need the points, too. Liverpool needs them. Things have gotten a little bit close, but City really needs these points as well. They're at home. Holland was able to get a little rest in, get a little healthier. Marmouche is playing pretty well. I think City's going to win 3-2. I expect to see them concede, probably stupidly, but I think they'll win a shootout for sure. But I agree with you. I think this will be one of the games of the season. I see a late winner.
I think it's going to be very, very back and forth. I don't necessarily think the scoreline will reflect how close the game is. I have Man City winning 3-1. I just think this is one that Liverpool's going to have some missed opportunities. Darwin Nunez is going to miss a sitter of some sort again.
Yeah.
And it's one where I feel like Erling Haaland's going to get one or two chances and take advantage of them. And then someone else, whether it's Marmouche, Savinho, Jack Grealish, if he ever plays again, Phil Foden, someone will step up. I highly doubt it'll be Grealish because I think he's pretty much done with Man City this year.
Yeah.
Someone will step up, though, and I think they get it done 3-1. By no means am I confident in that. It is Liverpool. They are top of the table for a reason. They beat Man City 2-0 at home earlier on in the season. They've looked damn good. But this just has one that I'm feeling Man City win all over it.
Yeah.
Also, your point, yeah, they have to. If they lose, they immediately fall out of the Champions League position.
Yeah, they will get passed by somebody.
Assuming Bournemouth, Chelsea, or someone wins.
Mm-hmm.
This is one that they can make a statement and see what happens. And I think they're out of the title race. It'd be a goddamn miracle for them to get back in, considering they have 44 points, so they're 17 back.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll happen, but this is one where you can just kind of harm Liverpool's chances at the moment.
That's a pride thing, too. There is a rivalry that exists between these two, right? Especially considering in recent times, City's been the one that has been stopping some of the best Liverpool teams that we've ever seen from winning because those City teams have just been slightly better. There is real animosity between these two sides. It's not Jurgen Klopp anymore, but there's still that kind of hatred between them. I think that'll add a spicy element to this game that I'm really excited to see. And it kind of feels like we're in that transition phase from the old City and Liverpool to this new one with Arne Slot and then City kind of moving on from some of their older players. But I think you're still going to see a lot of those old elements carry over.
My bold prediction for this is that's kind of like a one of two things. There's either going to be a red card. I think this is going to be a real feisty affair.
Yeah.
There's going to be a red card or at least like 5 yellow cards or something. I think it's going to be really feisty, and that's ultimately part of why I have it being 3-1 is I think Liverpool will make a mistake. Trent or someone will do something stupid and give away a penalty or give away a free kick in a dangerous position that Man City will take advantage of. Not saying that he'll get a red card for said tackle, but it's one that I think Liverpool will get caught sleeping and then will foul and give Man City a good opportunity.
Yeah, could definitely see that happening, especially City's got some very good tight dribblers.
Yes.
Foden, I just think about what he did last week in the Champions League.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like
they had some parts in the first Champions League leg, not necessarily the one yesterday in the second leg, but
one yesterday is forgettable. First one, it was fine until the very end.
Yeah,
you know, I like that call. I could see that happening as well. I definitely think you'll see a lot of yellow cards, a lot of fouls, and at one point, I think you'll see a little pushing. Calling that, the good old soccer fight. The
good old, yeah.
I'll push you and stand in your face and act like I'm going to do something. I'll see it. We'll see some of that.
This is going a little off topic, but I've discussed this with other people before, and we do have USA-Canada hockey tonight. We saw how that started the last game, 3 fights in 9 seconds. Would you be okay with soccer players or football players in this instance doing something like that? Like, say you got a real issue with someone. You okay with letting them just drop the gloves for a bit? You think that would benefit anybody? Because hockey, it's more of one of those things that you do it, the respect is there now, you've done it, and you move on with the game. There's not this jawing back and forth and flopping and all that.
I'm going to say no. I don't think you can, really realistically implement that. First of all, I don't think the fight should be good. Hockey players are tough. Did you see Atalanta Bruges?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get some of that shit. You'll slip trying to throw the ball at someone and then run up to them, and rather than punching them, I don't even know what that was. Shoulder check into the back, like some weak shit like that. No, I honestly, I don't think we need to see it. I'll save that for Sunday League in South America. That comes across my Instagram Reels feed every now and then.
I'm up for that as well.
That's a good point. It would not be good fighting. It would not be. Can you imagine Neymar trying to throw a punch?
That's it. Or can you imagine Neymar getting punched? We already see how much he walks around.
He's knocked. Who would be able to take a punch?
I'm putting all my money on Adama Traore.
Oh my god, I wouldn't even be fair. Dude, him versus Van Dijk could be a fun one.
Oh, that'd be a good one.
Right? I don't know. Lit's got some size too.
Yeah.
Who'd be feisty enough? I feel like Diaz could scrap.
You know who I think would have been an interesting fighter? I think Aguero back in his Man City heyday. I could see him being chippy enough and having this size and just being like a little small feisty guy.
If we want to talk about strikers who could fight, I think Diego Costa's got to be number one.
You have to put Diego Costa.
That man would light someone up.
Yep. I think Diego Costa might be the answer. At least as far as Premier League players go. I can see like a Steven Gerrard, a Frank Lampard. I could see John Terry being a menace to society.
Yeah.
He could be a good fighter. Or just.
Can you imagine Job Stom?
Going
back a little bit.
Who's the bald guy? Not bald guy, big nose. I think he played for Newcastle or Southampton.
Shelby?
Yeah. John Joe Shelby. Because he just looks like he's a hooligan thug looker.
Oh, yeah. Gattuso. Oh, God, we could have had some good ones. I feel like the modern generation is too soft. Like, who's really hard like that these days?
I could see Chris Wood being a fighter.
I just don't think he'd be affected by getting punched.
Yeah, that's the thing.
He looks like he's been getting into bar fights since he was 14.
Exactly.
Yeah, so.
Maybe. Here's the last one before we move back to kind of what we're talking about. Jamie Vardy, I think, could be scrappy.
Oh, my God, dude. That dude would bite. I know he'd be biting.
Speaking of biting, Luis Suarez has to be in this.
Oh, yeah, he'd be doing the cheapest shit. And he'd win because of it. And he'd be all proud, but oh, God, can you imagine? It's a good thing. Again, good thing it's not. Hey, you don't want fighting.
No, we don't want this.
You don't want it. Like, obviously, don't condone it. But also, the fights now would be so bad.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be like, what are we doing? Instead, you get the head-to-head little little pushes, saying stuff, acting like you're actually going to do something. Reality is most of those guys they couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
The vast majority could not do a thing.
You get one out of every 20 people or something. Each team might have one player, maybe. That's maybe.
Tell you what, if you made that rule though, FA Cup, some of these lower
Oh,
teams, oh yeah, they could scrap. Some of these
I'm,
British
I'm,
dudes could scrap the lower league.
I'm taking Millwall.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Get the fans involved, F it. It's game.
No. I'm saying the fans would end up training the players, teaching them a little thing here or there. Be like, okay.
I was saying have the fans run out of the field too.
Oh, I mean, we've seen that before.
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't need that in the Premier League. We're not advocating for it all. Just something fun to talk about and
Fun little discourse.
change of pace. Do a little sidetrack from our usual content because it feels like we haven't had any real sidetracks as of late on any of our shows.
Now we've been pretty good, so we're due.
We're back today, but
yeah.
Now back to a London derby, Arsenal and West Ham, because we just talked about the importance of this Liverpool Man City one. Are you feeling confident about Arsenal's chances against the Hammers?
Like if I had to make a prediction, right, which is what we're gonna do here, I'd say we're likely to win, but in no way, shape, or form am I confident. And again, it just comes down to our lack of players in attack. Marino, that worked out phenomenally. Best striker in the world. Has played one game, scored 2 goals. So just mark that right now. But that's not sustainable, you know? I
mean, even that Leicester game, it wasn't a good look for them. No.
There was the 80th minute.
Literally nothing going for them until the 81st minute.
It took that long.
Yeah.
So
that was against Leicester. Not saying West Ham is much better. West Ham is only 3 spots ahead, only 10 points better. But it's on, and this one's at home. So that's where I'm giving Arsenal the benefit of the doubt. Exactly. They are the team. They have the better players. So be it, a lot of them are injured.
Mm-hmm.
Much as we talked about last episode, how hard it is for Arsenal to score, West Ham's not exactly putting the ball away. They have 2 goals in their last 4 Premier League matches, and that's when they've been playing teams like Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Chelsea, or Brentford. They're not scoring against some of these lower teams. I don't see them scoring against Arsenal, who still – it's the attack that's injured, not the defense. This is still one of the best defenses in the league. I don't see them conceding. I think Arsenal will get it done, but it'll be like 1-0, 2-0 maybe.
Yeah, I was going to go with that 1-0 scoreline. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a draw. Like, I don't think we lose this game.
No, I
trust our back line. But I could see us in a situation where we score a goal and then concede one because that happens in soccer.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the reality is if we get scored on, we're not winning. I'll make that call right now. I think at the end of the day, we're more likely to win than not. But I'm not very confident about this game at all. It's like we talked about this last week. Leicester and West Ham are definitely games you should look at as 3 points still. Mm-hmm. Then heading forward, it gets a little trickier starting next week. So you need all 3 points here. I think Arsenal will, but I would not be surprised to see a draw, especially a 1-1 draw. That feels very likely or possible. Excuse me.
I could see a draw happening. I don't think it will. I still think Arsenal's far too good for the likes of West Ham, but it's the Premier League. Anything can happen. We've seen it so much this season.
Yeah.
And it might be one that Arsenal looks ahead to the midweek clash with Nottingham Forest.
Exactly.
Looks to 2 weekends' time when they play Man U. Fortunately, I will say for Arsenal's sake, they're not in the FA Cup anymore.
That is helpful.
They don't have to worry about that. They'll have Champions League coming up soon. Because as the fixtures stand for this next week, we have the weekend matches this week, a Tuesday, Wednesday matches next week, and then the FA Cup at the weekend. Arsenal will have a little break there, so they can go a lot harder and play players a little more tiring and tedious minutes this weekend in preparation, knowing that they have, we're going to have like 10 days off between the Forest match and the Man U match. So I think that'll benefit them. I think that'll allow them to go out and run harder and run longer.
Yeah, and speaking more long-term, that break is massive because it gives Saka more of a chance to get back. Mm-hmm. It gives Martinelli more time to get back. I mean, at the time, losing to Man U seemed catastrophic. Kind of like you're like, great, because we could have actually gone and won that. Now it could be a blessing. Could have been a blessing in disguise. We'll see how we handle the next 2 games, right? But it could be, because it can give those players more time to come back and not have to worry about extra fixtures, stuff like that. So that's really helpful. I'm still going to be negative long term. I just don't think it's sustainable to not have a true number 9. So I think it'll catch up. But I'm hoping it doesn't happen this weekend. 1-0 Arsenal.
No, again, yeah. I'm always an advocate for, especially as far as Leeds goes, losing the cup game. We're not going to win the cup either way. I didn't feel like Arsenal was going to win the FA Cup this year.
Yeah.
So you might as well get knocked out early. You get a little extra rest against some of your competition. So take it. But with that being said, this is such a weird FA Cup this year already.
It is. It's been fun. It's been fun for sure.
It's been a blast. Moving on down the line, Newcastle hosting Nottingham Forest. This is going to ultimately be my draw of these ones that we're diving in depth with, only because I cannot see either team losing. Both teams need points here. Newcastle definitely needs a win. Nottingham Forest, a win helps them kind of separate themselves from the Bournemouths, the Chelseas, the Newcastles. Where a slip up here isn't catastrophic for their Champions League hopes. But realistically, if some teams win, they lose a couple, they're suddenly out of the Champions League altogether. Champions League picture for next season. I think they're going to want to play close, play tight, and it's going to be a cold, rainy day from what I read up in Newcastle at the weekend. So this is going to be a scrappy one. I'm ultimately going to go 1-0. I think it's Chris Wood and Alexander Isak. That's a fun battle in its own right. 2 really, really good center strikers. Both have had an incredible ability to score goals this year. And I think both will get on the score sheet in a 1-0 draw.
I don't mind the draw. I've been back and forth. So I still think they will ultimately make Champions League qualification. I'm feeling Newcastle win here. I think this is going to be a tough stretch of games coming up for Forest, or they'll drop some points. I think ultimately they'll gain it back and they'll get into that top 4. But I got to go Newcastle 2-1. I do. What are you saying?
I was going to say, off what you just said about their tough fixtures. Yeah, it is. It's at Newcastle, home to Arsenal, FA Cup, and then home to Man City.
Yeah.
I think this is the most winnable of those 3 league matches. So I think this is the one they have to put their best foot forward and try and get something here.
It seems like that on paper, but I just feel like they'll get points somewhere else, but not in this game. I think Newcastle is going to want to see a reaction after what happened last weekend.
Yeah.
And they're at home. I'm going 2-1. I think it's a close game. I could see a draw happening for sure. You could also see Forest winning, because they've been doing that this season. And with Newcastle, you never really know still what Newcastle's going to show up. But I'm going to back them in this 2-1. I think it's a very good game, though. I think you do see Chris Wood get on the score sheet and Alexander Isak. I like that shout. I think Newcastle's got just enough to get all 3 points, though.
I don't hate that shout at all. Do you want to put it out there? Newcastle won the first leg at Forest, or first match at Forest this season 3-1. So pretty dominant there. I am also wondering if they're overlooking Newcastle a bit, looking ahead to the Wednesday night or Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Wednesday afternoon here in the U.S., Wednesday afternoon matchup at Liverpool. Maybe they're overlooking a bit. We've seen teams actually do that this year. They also have Brighton at the weekend in the FA Cup next week. So a lot on the mind of the Geordies. Do you want to dive in depth with Aston Villa and Chelsea at the moment, or do you want to kind of hop into predictions? And because that was the only other one we were really looking at touching on.
Yeah, we could do a quick one. We could look at it a little quickly.
I'll let you lead off for this one then.
I'm actually really looking forward to this game. I think this is going to be a really good game. At Aston Villa, so that adds an element of it right there. Chelsea's had a rough couple games, and they need to get going again. Villa looked good in the Liverpool game, and they want to keep that going so they can try to get themselves into the Champions League kind of talk. I think this is going to be an awesome, awesome game. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going 2-1 Villa.
Okay.
I think Chelsea takes the lead, but I think they fight back. I like the signings that they made during the winter transfer window. Those signings were definitely made with Champions League in mind, but I think you're going to see that benefit carry over into the Premier League, especially when you don't have Champions League to worry about. I think that'll get them over the line here. I just like the players that they have, especially in attack now. That I just don't think Chelsea is going to be able to keep them out.
And Villa still has some Champions League coming up. I'm curious to see who they get drawn with up next. I'm completely blanking on who the options were for them. I know there should be some fun ones, but they still have to do that. I do think, though, that they get it done here against Chelsea, and it is to the point of I like the signings. I like the Marco Asensio. I like the Axel Diassi. Rashford was the other big one. Who am I blanking on? Who's the other one? There's a four.
Mullen came in.
Yeah, that's right. I like those signings. I think this is going to be a ugly, ugly, ugly game that I think Chelsea won't get much going. And you'll notice a big difference from those from those new transfers who are finally looking like they're kind of getting into the swing of playing with Aston Villa, playing with that team, and it's fun. I think Marcus Rashford's almost better on the wing than he is as a number 9.
Oh, 100%.
I think he's better on the wings. He can use his pace more. He can just run up and down at you, and he's going up. Of course, like on paper, it seems like he'd be going up against Malo Gusto. Give me Rashford over Gusto and Chabola every day of the week in a foot race. You can get that with Morgan Rogers, Tielemans, John McGinn playing the ball over the top. I'm not saying Rashford's going to be the one who scores, but I think he causes enough mayhem, and I think Aston Villa wins this 1-0.
Yeah. I like the Morgan Rogers shout, too. I'm still such a fan of him.
Oh, I think he's been
so good.
Class, especially recently.
What a signing from the Championship. Just immediately – an impact player on a Champions League level side. I mean, he's been nothing short of amazing this season.
Oh yeah, he's been great. We'll see how he goes, how he does this weekend. And my other question with Chelsea is: are they playing Sanchez? Are they playing Jorgensen in goal?
Oh yeah,
that's been that. We're a long time away from the Peter Cech era of Chelsea, where you never had to worry about your goalkeeper. It's could you actually score and keep it going while he stopped. Now, can we score enough that the 4 goals we allow, say, we can outscore?
It's been a disaster ever since Courtois left, too.
Yeah, that's the other one.
Yeah, they had consistency with Courtois and before that, Petr Cech.
I mean,
ever since Kepa, you had oh my gosh, what's his name?
I know you're talking about.
Plays for Senegal.
Mendy.
Yeah, Mendy. Yeah, Mendy. Sanchez has been not great. It's just everyone you've had recently, it just feels like it hasn't really worked out in terms of keepers. Kind of weird because, again, for a while, they were definition of consistency with their keepers. Very good, top class, world class keepers. And now it's just
a mess.
It's a mess. Yeah, it's a mess.
The whole Chelsea team is falling off heavily, but they're finally kind of getting back into their swagger, going forward and all that. So fair play to them. Any final thoughts on the Aston Villa and Chelsea match before we dive into our predictions for the other 6 matches this weekend?
Let's dive in.
Well, we'll start off with Leicester hosting Brentford tomorrow, Friday afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Who do you have in this one and why?
Going Brentford, Leicester just doesn't convince me still. It's been a rough second half of the season for him. I think it continues. Brentford can score. I'm taking Brentford 2-0.
Yeah, Brentford beat them 4-1 in the first meeting this season. I don't think it'll be quite as bad, but the way they've been playing more consistently, and they had the good result with Man City not that long ago. Leicester has just been dumpster fire after dumpster fire. Of course, they beat Tottenham, but outside of that, that's their only win in the Premier League since when did they beat West Ham? December 3rd.
Yeah.
I don't see them getting a win here. I think Brentford will get it done 3-1. And the Bees are buzzing. The Foxes are on their way back down to the championship.
Mm-hmm.
Another one. We had a thriller last week. Man U and Tottenham last week. This week it's Everton and Man U. 14th versus 15th. Everton being 14, Man U being 15. Thriller at mid-table mediocrity. Who do you have here?
2-1 Everton.
Okay.
I like the energy that's around this club now that David Moyes is back.
I do too.
You know, it's very different than what we've seen in recent years. I think that'll get them over the line here. They're starting to play well. Man U just feels like we've all given up. You know, Amorim's given up. It feels like players have given up, fans have given up. So I'm going Everton 2-1. I don't think Man U looks very good this game.
No, I'm with you. And Everton's been scoring at least multiple goals in majority of their recent games. Of course, there's some outliers. They scored 2 against Palace in a win this weekend. Scored 2 against Liverpool in that draw. 4 against Leicester. 3 against Tottenham. They're scoring goals, and Man U has just been so inconsistent, so leaky. They're losing games that they shouldn't have no right losing.
Mm-hmm.
So I am taking Everton. Also can't back myself to take Man U. I'm going 1-0, but I could see this being a draw as well.
Yeah.
Did Arsenal, West Ham, Bournemouth, Wolves. Wolves have just been bad. Bournemouth, they're still fighting for something. I want to take Wolves, even though I know it's not the right one. I'm not going to. I don't know why. I just have that gut feeling that if there's going to be an upset this week, it's going to be this one. But I am going to take Bournemouth. I also still find it hard to believe that Bournemouth's 5th in the table.
Mm-hmm.
Give me them in a 2-1 game. Going to be very close. So.
I'm going 3-1
Okay.
Bournemouth. They've just been so impressive this season. You know, I don't think anyone expected them to be this good. Most of the focus has been on Forest and what they've done. What about Bournemouth? What they've done has been great.
They've suddenly just snuck up there.
Yeah.
You look at recent results. They're beating everybody they had. They battered Newcastle 4-1, beat Forest 5-0.
Yeah.
They beat the likes of Man U. They beat Tottenham, beat Man City, beat Arsenal.
Yeah.
Are you more surprised, just before we finish these up, are you more surprised in Bournemouth's performances this year or Forest of where they are?
I think Forest still, just because I thought they were worse than Bournemouth. Bournemouth, you've seen subtle improvements in recent years, but I'd expect them to be around 10th still.
Oh.
I mean, they've still been insanely good. Forest, that feels so out of left field.
Yeah.
Definitely that. But, I mean, Bournemouth has still been very, very impressive, and I just don't see a way Wolves gets this one, especially on the coast. I just don't see it happening.
Do you think Fulham gets it done against Crystal Palace? Will the Eagles flying high?
I'm going to go – wow, Mike almost just fell there. I'm going to go draw. I'm feeling a draw on this one. And I wanted to say Palace wins, but I just don't think they've got it in them to win. So I'm going draw. I'm going 1-1 draw. This is my draw for the week.
For me, it's the fact that it's at Fulham. We've just been raving about how hard of a place it is to play. This is one that, as you said, they're at 39 points. If they win this one and results go their way, they could be 1 point back of the European spot.
Yeah.
I think Fulham will get it done 1-0, maybe 2-1. But I just think they're the better side, and Palace have been just inconsistent as of late.
Yeah.
Final couple matches, and we don't have to go fully in depth. Ipswich, Tottenham, bottom half of the table matchup. Tottenham is still the much better team. Ipswich, in my opinion, is still terrible and going down. I'm taking Tottenham.
I'm going Tottenham as well, 2 in a row. I think they make it 3. Carry that momentum in. I don't think they lose.
And I have a feeling I know who you're going to take with this last match.
Oh, yeah. I don't even – yeah, go on.
Brighton going to Southampton. Give it to me playing short and sweet.
Southampton's playing. I'm picking Brighton. Easy enough. Give me 2-1. I'll give Southampton a goal here. Mix it up. 2-1.
I'm giving Brighton 3 goals to Southampton 0. I think they do what they did to Chelsea to them. And this has been I know it's been playing Chelsea twice in a row. They've looked much better than they did when they lost to Everton 1-0 and Forest 7-0.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Southampton, I think the only win they have in recent times was Ipswich and a team in the Championship.
Yeah.
They're back. But all right, I have Brighton as well. Any final thoughts, Jackson, on anything? We made it to an hour, had a little bit of a tangent, so I hope you guys enjoyed all of that. Any final thoughts on anything in the footballing world or anything in sports at the moment?
I think we're good.
There you have it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'm just going to put a shout out there. If you've been following the relegation battle, hope you've been following the promotion battle. Leeds, South Sheffield United, top 2 in the table of the championship, play on Monday. We'll see what happens there. Big game tomorrow for your other team. For those who don't remember, Jackson's a Sheffield Wednesday fan. They take on third place Burnley. So come on, Owls. Come on, Leeds.
Always.
Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.